Hello everybody, my name is Sam, and I have had an interesting day. I had one of my friends over, but I guess there are one or two friends that I don't have, tons to do with, a good chunk. Like, some of my friends that I have, I just do kind of one thing with, and some of the time, I invite them over and just kind of goof around for a bit. I don't know, it's okay. I would have liked to have done a bit more with my day, but I don't know, it's not too bad. Yeah. But anyway, regardless of how not necessarily 100% I feel today, we are playing Depression Quest, and the last thing that we're doing is we're talking to our parents, and apparently they want to know why I'm still at my job. So, I don't know what you guys wanted to do, because I haven't checked the comments, because I recorded these way in advance. So what I kind of think I would do is I would kind of admit that I don't know what I want to do. Because, I really don't, and there'd probably be, to an extent, understanding. Admittedly, when I do mention this kind of stuff, of I don't know what I'm doing with my life, I tend to do it in passing, and people kind of tend to ignore it, but I do like to at least say, what's on my mind to an extent. So let's see how this goes. Actually, you start sheepishly, I'm not really sure what I want to do right now. Your mum puts down her fork. So what, you're planning on living the... Oh, wow. You're planning on living the way you are for the rest of your life? How would you afford a house on that paycheck? What about kids? Jeez. Forceful. Okay. Don't get me wrong, I do tend to not talk to my parents about stuff because I am kind of nervous about what if they do go off at me, but geez, that's a bit extreme. Your father interrupts lightly, placing his hand over your mother's. It's okay, Linda, let the kids be what they are. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what to do in your 20s, what you want to do in your 20s. I didn't get into construction until I was nearly 40. Your mother looks across the table at you, unsatisfied with her husband's reasoning. I don't think it's normal for someone at that age to not have a path. You need to think hard about it or you'll never make anything out of yourself. Jeez, this is really the wrong path. I don't know, it is kind of weird, I guess, because that's kind of, I guess, the way that you do feel about yourself. And it's very ironic, I guess. Some of the things that I've felt while being self-conscious is that I've been very much like, for example, I was very conscious of my weight. And I'm not, super overweight, but I put on a bit. Because I was just like, oh no, I feel terrible about myself, I'm so fat. But it wasn't until I actually put on a lot of weight, and my parents were just like, oh, you're a bit stocky and stuff. And I was kind of like, finally, they recognized me. But it wasn't a good feeling, because it was kind of like, oh, now I, legitimately am as bad as I think I am. So it's kind of very ironic this way. Mum, come on, Malcolm interjects after that very long pause for me to explain myself. This emotionally exhausts you. Yeah, I imagine it would. Kind of like how I was playing Five Nights at Freddy's. That was emotionally exhausting. You want to tell her that you are thinking hard and that not knowing what you're doing with yourself bothers you more than it could ever bother her. That it sometimes feels like you're lost in the woods and that if you were to drop dead in your apartment, the world wouldn't notice. Yeah. You want to make her understand that more often than not, you feel like an alien, like there isn't anywhere in the world that feels like a place you belong. And you have no idea how to fix it or what to do. You wish you could find the words so she would understand that being looked down on for this kills you and drives home the feeling of being a total outsider. Instead, you get very quiet for the rest of the meal. And your mind goes numb, everything inside you feels exhausted. Oh man, there are days where I have felt that way. And it is always so ironic because, it is always self-inflicted. Because it's always because of all the extra work that I give myself, even though I think this short time that I've had away from school has actually been a lot better than I thought it would be. Like, I thought I'd go completely crazy because I didn't have any kind of structure and I was just going to be kind of sitting around wasting my life away. And I think it is kind of funny because now I kind of recognise that school has had a really big influence over my ability to just make sense, because like school is just this extra thing that I'm like, I can't use all this time on this. Okay, let's move on. It's a rainy night. I find it interesting how we've completely disregarded days of the week, which I guess kind of makes sense because, I mean, I guess without like school and stuff, I'm kind of living that way as well. It's kind of all the days kind of blur into each other. You are hurrying through the rain to Alex's apartment at her behest. Though your pace is quick, the rain is steadily soaking up your pant legs as you traverse the town and is darkening your already poor mood. The call came while you were at home after a day of dealing with abnormally frustrating people. You'd spent the afternoon trying to unwind and get some work on your project done. Alex called and interrupted one of your try and make progress, get frustrated at not making progress, have a harder time making progress due to frustration repeat loops, and you haven't fully shaken off the feelings of being annoyed with yourself from it yet. Oh, accuracy. You knock on her door, and on the third knock hear her voice call from further in the apartment to come on in. As you cross the threshold, dripping rainwater all the way, you notice that the lights are turned down very low in the apartment. You squint to navigate it as you clutch on your damp umbrella, but end up hitting your shin on a side table, mumbling a profanity under your breath. You barely make out Alex emerging from the hallway, clad in what looks to be a robe with the bare skin of her legs peering out underneath. "Why don't you come in and warm up?" she asks in her designated, slightly cheesy, sexy voice. After a beat of silence, she states more naturally, "My roommates are out of town this weekend, so I thought it might be nice to have a little fun while they're away." You appreciate her affection, but you're too wrapped up in your own negative feedback loops to be in the mood right now. What do you do? Try to unwind with her before getting physical, suggest you do something else instead, or tell her you're not in the mood. I'm going to be honest. I think, to an extent at least, I am asexual, so I'm kind of like, I'm not sure if I'd be like, oh yes, all the sex. And I think, I don't know, like, I think it would be really weird, because I think it would be really weird having a girlfriend, especially when I get kind of so angry all the time, because there are days where I just wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to, like, really talk to someone, and if someone was like, oh, like, if I had, like, a wife or something, like, there are definitely days where I just not talk to a person for, like, a few hours when I get home, and honestly, that would be quite a lot of days if my life goes the way that I'm kind of negatively expecting that it might. So, I mean, the whole idea, and that's one of the terrifying things, is that I'm kind of like, so, like, oh my god, I need to go to a girlfriend and stuff, when I don't have so many other parts of my life sorted. So, what would I do in this situation? I'd probably suggest we do something else instead. Like, I wouldn't probably completely shut her down, but I wouldn't force myself, because I'd just be like, no, I can't really do anything to her. You look at her standing barely lit and notice there's a few candles scattered around the apartment. It occurs to you that she's tried to make this night special for the two of you, so you decide to put aside your bad mood and simply be with her, even though you have a tight knot of antisocial frustration in your stomach. Seeing how much she cares takes the edge off of your bad day. You approach her and hold her. "This is wonderful. Thank you for doing all of this," you tell her, kissing her forehead. "I've had such a bad day, and seeing how you care like this makes life a lot less heavy." She smiles at you and the two of you kiss. "Is there any way we can just talk tonight? I'm exhausted and I really want to just be near you." Oh, she responds. That's not good. She thinks for a brief second as though she's evaluating if you had meant anything more by that. Sure, yeah, that works. The two of you cuddle up on the couch and talk. You end up ranting about your job a little, and she commiserates with you and relates similar stories about a terrible professor she has. Regardless of the fact that you don't have sex that night, you still feel as though it was still a very romantic experience. Yeah, so I think that's good. Like, I think if we kind of tried the other one, she wouldn't have really understood, kind of. It would have been just like, why don't you have sex with me now? It would have been... So I think that was kind of a positive experience, I guess. It's an early winter evening, and even though it's not particularly late, the time of year has lent the sky an almost prematurely darkened cast. Day after day, just like today, you trudge home from work from a job that you have increasingly come to hate. On this day, your job misery seems to have reached critical mass, and not even shedding your rain-laden and uncomfortable work clothes helps you to unwind from your workday. You collapse on the couch, blank and numb, while your job always seems to have an unpleasant reality of existence. It was a position you sort of fell into unexpectedly, never intending to work there long term, and it's getting harder and harder to keep it up. I can relate so much. Like, I wasn't even at school, like, a semester, like at community college, a semester, before I even said, and I specifically recall saying, I don't even care about my grades. And I started failing subjects on my second semester, and even though I ended up just barely passing them, I failed ones, like, last semester, and the one that not really this semester, but the second one of this year, I'm going to actually be getting my results for on Friday. So I've got a feeling that might be a day that I'm not particularly jazzed. So you'll be like, oh yes, he does have some kind of inability to deal with things. So yes, that'll be fun. But while it's not certainly not your dream job, you've always just sort of stuck it out of necessity before, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to do that. Though you couldn't even begin to imagine what else you could do, you find yourself face to face with the question you can't ignore. Is your complacency worth the price of this level of misery? What do you do? I'm gonna be real, like, and this is once again a very good kind of, almost like a metaphor for my own situation with my education, because I mean, I want to go out and do something else, but the thing is, I know that there's no guarantees in life, but the concept that I'm going to potentially do a year in this course, a year in that course, a year in that course, a year in that course, and be no closer to some kind of job or anything like that, or anything that just kind of like is a positive or any of this, that makes it very hard to move, because I'm very much like, I even have a personal thing that I quote that I kind of try and live by, which is that everything will be alright in the end, so if it's not alright, it is not yet the end. And that kind of makes me go, you know what, like, if I have to try it a bunch of times and I get the perfect job at the end, then awesome. But I don't live by that, I just feel that way. So it's very difficult to kind of have that complete and utter disagreement between, like, my attitudes and my beliefs and the way I actually live. So, what do? We can try and at least be productive by focusing your efforts on your project tonight. We can aimlessly look through classifieds for another job, or we can turn on the TV and let your mind go blank. I want you guys to go down into the comment section and tell me, in this situation, which would you do? Would you do 2, 3, or 4? as always, please subscribe. And I will film another one of these, and I will get this thing lined up, and more videos will be coming. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.